Thank you, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Town of Atikokan Committee of the Whole agenda for March 23rd, 2026, times 4:30 p.m. Disclosure of pecuniary interests and the general nature thereof. If you have anything to declare now or at the time, please do so. Moving on, item number 3, delegations. We've got a delegation from Aaron Ward and Werner Schwar from the City of Thunder Bay regarding the Northwood splash pad. Gentlemen, are you there?
Good evening. Yes, we are.
Yes, we're.
Awesome. The floor is yours.
Okay, I'm just going to share my screen here. Bear with me. Oh, it says the host has disabled screen sharing.
You should be able to now.
All right, thank you. One second. Of course, technology is great. Close. There we go. How is that? Can you see that now?
Great. Yep.
Perfect. We'll get started. Thank you. Yes, we're excited to be here today to speak to you about our Northwood Splash Pad project here in Thunder Bay. My name is Aaron Ward. I'm a project manager with the City of Thunder Bay in the Growth Department. I am from Atikokan, born and raised, and was an Outers in 1996-97, and I'm joined by Werner Schwar.
And I'm Supervisor of Parks and Open Space Planning for the City of Thunder Bay, and I'm originally a Southern Ontario transplant and have stayed up here in the north.
Being from Thunder Bay, we would also like to use this as an opportunity to acknowledge the Indigenous peoples who are the original custodians of the land where we live and work, and to pay our respects to the elders, for they hold the memories, the traditions, the culture, and the hopes of the Indigenous peoples. We are honored here in Thunder Bay to be able to share the water, air, and land with them. And we also recognize that Thunder Bay is on the traditional land of the Fort William First Nation, signatory to the Robinson Superior Treaty of 1850, and we acknowledge the role of the Métis peoples in the development of our community. This evening, we are excited to share with you the journey the city took for our most recent splash pad project, including our process and some lessons learned. And I'll now pass it on to Werner Schwar, who will walk you through the first steps and how we transformed this city grass space into not only the city's 5th splash pad, but also a flood mitigation facility and a new biking and sliding hill, which provides year-round benefits to our community.
All right, great. Thanks, Aaron. So the first thing as the park planner was to decide on a location for the splash pad. And luckily we had a splash pad plan for 5 different splash pads across the city. We had already built 3, and this was the and then Marina Park, and this then ended up being the 5th location. So it's Northwood Park. It's in our southern area of the city, surrounded by residential and low income geared to income housing on one side of the street, and then more affluent housing to the south and west. It was a good spot for a splash pad because we had other amenities and facilities there already. And then the first exercise, from my perspective as a park planner, was to determine the location within the park itself. And that was the starting point of the project, develop 4 different possible locations. And then the first step was to go to the stakeholders that already were in the park. So we had both Indigenous community and youth center stakeholders that we all got together and looked at where the best possible spot could be to serve their needs. And they and we arrived at a location, which in this case was location 1, for a whole host of reasons, with respect to parking, convenience to the facility, and usability of the area itself. And to point out that we had a budget of 50,000 for servicing and then 450,000 for the actual splash pad. So approximately a $500,000 budget, but note that that was 4 years ago. And inflation has probably increased the value of the park as of now. And next slide, Aaron, please. And then after determining a location within the park and meeting with the stakeholders, we needed to then go to the public. However, an important message that came out of the the stakeholder meeting was that there was an opportunity here to explore the theme water is life. And before that, we hadn't really thought of theming splash pads, but this presented a unique opportunity with us because water is life is an important Anishinaabe teaching. And with the high Indigenous population surrounding the site, we thought this was a good opportunity to use that theme and also explore the idea of how can we do reconciliation um, in the process of developing a splash pad. So after developing that theme, developing a location, then we went out into the community, both the immediate community and the city at large. And we in Thunder Bay have an online platform called Get Involved. We were able to go online with that, as well as have targeted meetings with the neighborhood to get their opinions and, most important, buy-in to the facility and where it is. So next slide, please, Aaron. And after getting buy-in from the community and the theme of water is life, the next step was to make sure we went to the Indigenous community itself and made sure they were okay with us exploring that theme of water is life. So we hired a local Indigenous engagement firm. They then went to the Indigenous community, talked to our elder community specifically, and generated this report that contained some of the do's and don'ts in respect to what is or how can we successfully incorporate water as life into an RFP in the future. So the end result, which was very important in our case, was to get buy-in from the Indigenous community that water is life is something that we could and should explore the theming of. So next slide, please, Aaron. And then after that, then we were on to the procurement stage. And in Thunder Bay, we have explored different ways of procuring from the very beginning, where we actually bought all the equipment and then had a tender to install it, to now we have a design build RFP process where we come up with the parameters, we have the budget, and then it's up to the design firms and splash pad companies to come up with a proposal. And that is what we did in this case. So we used the guidance of what is water's life as a theme, as long as site parameters, where it is, where the servicing is, what time frame we wanted, and went out to the market. And the successful bidder was a combination of Waterplay, which provided the splash pad components, HTFC, our landscape architects out of Winnipeg, and then Full Flow Industries being the installer. So they teamed up together, again with a local Indigenous training group, and submitted a successful proposal in this case. And then importantly, we went to back to the Elder Council and showed them the presentation and the proposal and made sure we got their buy-in before awarding the RFP. And the key part of the RFP was that the Elder Council was allowed to provide feedback for possible changes in the future. And next slide, Aaron.
So while working through the preliminary design for the splash pad facility, the city's team had one other question to answer, and it is a very critical one. What do we actually do with all that water from the splash pad? The city has not had a consistent approach to this with our 4 previous splash pads, and we had not found a consistent approach across Ontario. Do we put that water into the sanitary sewer system, which then raises the question about sewer capacity and additional flows to the sewage treatment plant? Do we connect it directly to the storm sewer system, which discharges to a nearby river, which would then require additional dechlorination? This is where the questions and feedback from the community also help to find a solution. Let's use this water to tell a story and to provide a beneficial use. The water is life teaching. Let's allow the water from the splash pad to return back to the environment on site, just like when it rains. So in addition to utilizing the water from the splash pad, we found there was a further opportunity to improve the stormwater management for a much larger area, and we knew from past events and studies that the downstream storm sewer had capacity issues. This project presented an opportunity to address some of that by diverting the existing drainage area into the same facility that would manage the splash pad drainage. We then followed our typical feasibility and detailed design process as shown here and confirmed there was sufficient space to construct a drainage facility to treat the 136 cubic meters of water per day from the splash pad and a 3.9 hectare or 10-acre drainage area from the existing park and parking lot area. And moving to construction, these are just some photos that simply show some of the before and after of this space, both for the splash pad and the drainage and flood mitigation facility that we constructed. Werner.
Yeah, so during construction, again, since we involved the Indigenous population prior to, we had to make sure we did the same during in terms of progress updates. And then during construction itself, we made sure we had a blessing and a ceremony that was private between the contractors, the city, and Indigenous elder. And then during the process, we were also lucky enough to work with Fort William First Nation to have them supply and provide us with the Indigenous grandfather teaching stones. Okay, next, Aaron. And then for the actual splash pad itself, the elements we incorporated are well shown in this image. So basically it was plants and animals that are indigenous to the area, the grandfather teaching stones, we had indigenous text and animals as rubber relief on the ground, and then as well as the welcoming signage in both official languages. And the really unique part of the project, we had a training center of Indigenous members build our picnic tables and our lawn chairs around the area to get buy-in from the community in all ways. Okay, next.
And on the infrastructure side, just wanted to share a few things. So this site was serviced by a 2-inch water service from the main on the adjacent street with 25 meters of new water line. We needed to upgrade the electrical service and with an upgraded electrical breaker panel and hydrometer that was fed into the site into a new mechanical building that had all the controls for the splash pad. And then the water service went into the splash pad along with the electrical controls. We had to decommission and relocate an electrical service that was kind of in conflict with our drainage and flood mitigation facility. We also added in new sidewalks around the site for access and to be AODA compliant, Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act compliant. And as Werner noted, we added in some new seating and so on around this with picnic tables, which were anchored into the sidewalks. They didn't, disappear. We also built in a new shade structure, and the picnic tables and seats were placed in a location to take advantage of the existing trees and new trees that were planted from shading purposes. Overall, the entire footprint of the splash pad and sidewalk area was about 820 square meters or about 8,800 square feet. Another factor we had to deal with was the excess soil from building all of this. The extra, again, soil and so on was about 1,000 cubic meters. So what did we do? We kept that soil on site since we had the park space nearby and created a new BMX hill and bike jump track to be used in the summer and a sliding hill in the winter. And that actually saved a lot of money since we didn't have to truck the soil off site. This is just another view showing some of the infrastructure required to support the splash pad, again, including the electrical feed coming in from an existing nearby transformer that went into the bunker building. And again, we have our new signage, some new waste and recycling bins, as well as seasonal portable toilets to service the facility. For drainage infrastructure, just want a quick highlight here. So again, we had some catch basins and storm sewer to divert that drainage area from the parking lot. There's a area drains in the splash pad as well as a floor drain in the mechanical building. We then had this rock line channel that had a liner, a pool liner essentially underneath. That was to allow the water to not infiltrate into the ground, but allow the water to be interacted with, played with, and be seen, but also to allow the water to have more contact with sunlight, which allowed it to be dechlorinated. All that water then went into, again, over a waterfall feature and into the main flood mitigation facility. This flood mitigation facility has a special catch basin and outlet structure here, and special soils in here as well to allow the water to infiltrate into the ground. One thing to note too is that this facility was designed lower than the road nearby so that during major rainfall events, the storm sewer would actually back up into this facility and provided 714 cubic meters of flood storage to protect the downstream neighborhoods. And by diverting the parking lot water into this facility, we actually reduced the flows into that storm sewer between 33 and 60%, depending on which storm event you look at. Overall, the splash pad was constructed within the available budget of $500,000, and that was funded by municipal funds. The flood mitigation facility was funded separately, and that cost $261,000. And we were able to leverage 50% third-party funding from DMAF, or the Disaster Mitigation and Adaptation Fund. And overall, this project has been very popular with the neighborhood, as well as provided opportunities for Indigenous knowledge sharing and teaching about climate adaptation in our city. Werner.
Yeah, so, and then finally, when to complete the project, again, since we involved the Indigenous community before and during, it was important to involve them afterwards as well. So we actually had a private blessing, again, with the elders, the contractor, and the city, which happened at the end of construction. And then the following year, we had a proper water ceremony with the public and the Indigenous community to celebrate the official opening. So very important to make sure all those steps are included. Next, please, Aaron. And then, interesting. I'm not sure if everyone's seeing that double or not.
Oh, it looks okay, I think, but
Okay, I'm seeing it double, but the important thing is that we learned some very important lessons during this process, right? That when dealing with Indigenous community, there were a lot of protocols to follow. And also there was the recognition that there isn't just one uniform Indigenous culture. There are many different groups that come to Thunder Bay, and it's important to take in all of their comments as well. And again, in splash pads, they, believe it or not, can generate NIMBYism. Some people don't actually like to see kids have fun or have the noise, and that's an important consideration in where you locate it. But then similarly, how public safety and things like conflicts with pedestrians, accessibility is also important, and equally as important as the NIMBYism attitude. Next, please, Aaron.
yeah, so we just thought we'd close on some possible questions for Atikokan to consider as you move forward with your first splash pad project. Again, so what level of community engagement do you need, if any? And if you are seeking community input, what input do you want from the community? What questions do you want them to answer? Again, what factors do you need to consider when trying to site or locate a splash pad, such as access, access to the site, servicing requirements, as that can have a high cost for your infrastructure needs, proximity to other amenities, and you're managing that excess soil, and how are you going to manage that water? A few things to keep in mind are for projects with external funding, are there additional requirements from the funder? If it's, say, government funding, they may have a duty to consult requirement, and what are their timeframes that the funder may have too? One big thing for many projects is operations and maintenance. Who's going to be responsible for this thing, and what are the operating costs? These facilities do need to be decommissioned in the winter and recommissioned for use in the summer months. And just for sake of time, I won't read all of this here, as you guys have access to the slide deck. I will note, though, that we in Thunder Bay are willing to share our documents with you. Our design documents call for proposal documents. And we do know that, again, Red Rock, Nippic, and Fort Frances have also developed splash pads. I'm sure they could offer some input and insight as well. With that, thank you very much for your time, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Great, thank you so much, gentlemen. Any questions from council? Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Acting Mayor Knowles. Aaron, I never thought of this for the location, and it's kind of scary. A location by the river. So I don't know if we've thought about or including a fencing off the area, but it's definitely something that would have to be looked into, because I can see the problem there. Kids drawn to the river.
Yeah, it's something to keep in mind for sure. Because again, if children are playing in water in one space, they may not think to not play in the other. Again, I'm not sure about Atikokan's rules or signage about, again, swimming in the river or not. Werner, did you want to add to that at all in terms of like the interaction?
Sure. Yeah, and I think it's not just the river, because it would depend on the bank at that particular location, but also if there's a busy road, right? Like we had to weigh how close to the road, James Street, we were going to go with it, and settled on a distance that we thought was far enough. And we also had a basketball court in between the splash pad and the road to help sort of deter the runners that happen, because you do have to think of, like, say, for example, autistic kids that may just run for the sake of running. And often fencing is a solution for that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions from council? Councillor Lyons?
Thank you, Chair Knowles. I just want to say thank you to Aaron and Warner for the presentation. It's been really helpful. So what I'm hearing is that projects like this usually involved a few different aspects, one of them being looking at the different location options, talking to the community, thinking about accessibility, and also working with nearby services and stakeholders. So I guess my question really is for staff. Can we confirm whether council will be getting the same level of information for our projects before decisions are being made?
Thank you for that. So there was some high-level discussions regarding locations, and then I think it was almost a recommendation from the ad hoc committee having those conversations with the library and such that, and again, as your point, access to services, and that determined that that would have been the front runner location, but we did not do public consultation in regards to the location.
Okay, just in follow-up, is there a plan to do that?
Specifically for location, no.
For the project itself?
For the project itself, yeah, we are looking at once the project is tendered to have a kind of an evening public access to be able to look at it and provide comment.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Simpson?
I'll just note, sorry, we can't hear if the question is to us. I think,
Oh,
not sure if the
sorry.
microphone is on. Yeah,
I'll try it again.
thank you.
I see that you use portable toilets there. Who's responsible for the cleaning of them? Do you have volunteers to do that, or?
Sorry, I can answer that. So there's two sets of bathrooms at that. There is a youth center there, so that when that is open, it's an option, and that's looked after by Community Services. But our Parks and Open Spaces department, we have a contract with a vendor for portable toilets across our parklands.
Okay.
So that's just part of our normal operations with portable toilets.
Okay, thank you. I was just wondering, because we might be thinking of doing something like that. Okay.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Martin, you had your hand up? Go ahead.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay, everyone? Aaron and Werner, thank you so much for this what you've shown us here. And it almost feels like we're opening Pandora's box here. You know, we talk about a simplistic sort of splash pad. Now, you know, this is going to be a little bit problematic, probably, maybe even where the location is going to be. So I got a couple of questions. I hope I can ask a couple. What determined the size, the splash pad? This looks like a Cadillac version splash pad, and forgive me, Councillor Shine, maybe we can only afford a Buick type of splash pad.
I can answer that. That it's a good question, and to some extent, there's a lot of factors that determine the size. Obviously, budget is one, right? However, we have gone through different splash pad locations, and the cost of the subgrade varies considerably. So here we were fortunate we had a not too bad of a subgrade, but we've had one splash pad that was dictated in County Park, which was muskeg, which we had to excavate 1.5 meters of muskeg and fill back granular. So we spent 300,000 on the base of the splash pad and 200,000 on the splash pad. So its location and the servicing and the subgrade can greatly influence what you're going to get above ground, which isn't always evident until you do. We had to do geotechnical investigation at each site in order to determine a good base for the splash pad. So we have shown you this example as an example of what can be done. we have very simple splash pads as well in parts of the city where we didn't go through the process to be so complicated. But quite honestly, they're not as popular and they don't have the same meaning to the community because of that, right? So there is a trade-off there.
I'll just add
Okay,
to that,
well,
if I may,
thank
that sorry, yeah, I'll just add that part of it, because we did a design build procurement process, in order to get kind of better pricing, we had to eliminate as many variables as we can in advance. So we knew the soil conditions, so that when they were pricing this as a design build product, they knew what they had to consider and keep in mind. Same with where were the servicing. The more information one could provide a potential builder of the splash pad, the more accurate their pricing can be versus building in safety factors.
Okay. So how did you determine the footprint? Because I mean, we're gonna have to, we're gonna have to work with that too. So is it based on what? How big?
It's based on what the vendor will provide for the dollars available.
Okay, thank you.
So in a few projects, we've had to scale back the footprint because in the case of County Park, where the subgrade ended up taking more of our budget, we had to scale back the footprint.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you, Werner. Um, you take into consideration parking? It looks like you have, parking. People are gonna drive there, they're gonna park, get out and take their children to this thing too, right? So,
That is for sure an important consideration, and it also depends on the type of splash pad you're doing, right? This one particularly is meant to be a community one rather than just a neighborhood one. So ideally, if it's servicing that, then parking is part of it, and we already had parking in place, so it was easy. Um, Not all of our smaller community splash pads, they do not have specific parking on site, but there's street parking.
okay. Okay, thank you. One more if I could. Um, um, sorry, I was wondering about the recycling of the water. This looks like it could be problematic. Is there a way to, like, if you have a car wash that's recycling water, is that an option here, or is it too costly to do that?
No, a recirculating system is an option. It functions much more like a pool system then. So you do not have the flow through water, so you save a lot of water in that respect. The premium for that at our time was about 100,000 to do a recirculating pump
Okay.
system versus flow through. We have elected to do flow through. The cost, we get more splash pad for the money, but in these cases where we're able to overland flow the water before it goes into the storm system, we're able to dechlorinate the water without extra treatment. And there is currently no legislation in Ontario that says thou shalt do one versus the other. However, I have heard rumor that there may be legislation in the future that forces a recirculating system or water
Okay.
conservation.
And I'll just add, if I may,
Okay.
that as much as there's not clear framework on which one you have to do, if you pick one, like I'm going to put it towards the river, there is regulation around that you have to dechlorinate it first. You can't send chlorinated water direct to the river without some dechlorination occurring first, which is where for our 5 splash pads, they're all treating the water a bit different based on what infrastructure was nearby.
Okay. Thank you very much, and I'll let someone else ask. Thank you very much. That was very informative.
Thank you. Any other questions from members of council? Councilor Lyons?
Thank you, Chair Knowles. Question for Werner. You mentioned that you have smaller splash pads throughout the city. I'm wondering, did you go through the same planning process for each of those splash pads as you did this one, or were they further condensed in terms of, say, whatever requirements were needed?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is each one seems to have gotten more complicated. In the beginning, it started off that city didn't have a splash pad, so I mean, much the same way as Atikokan, right? So the person that was well before my time, but they basically picked some components out of a catalog and procured that through their procurement means. So, you know, we want this or approved equal. And then they ended up buying the components, and then they had a contractor install it. So though that was very simple, not really any public engagement process. It was just the parks department that went ahead and did it. The next splash pad was a little bit more complicated. We went out for quotes on the equipment and then decided what we could afford. And then the third one got more complicated. We went through a design build process and a public engagement process. And then that ended up causing issues because some residents didn't think it had enough consultation. And that then developed this process that we're currently in order to satisfy those people that come in after the fact and said, why wasn't I personally consulted on the project? So for us, it's been a bit of an iterative process. That's not to say you have to go through that way, like nothing wrong with the simple method, but unfortunately, because we've had to go through those processes, now the public will expect that for the next one as well.
And I just had one question. You had mentioned some decommissioning costs seasonally. What, if you don't mind sharing, are the average costs to, in both dollars and labor costs to do that seasonally?
I don't have the exact numbers, although we use our own staff. So it's park staff that shuts it down and blows all the lines. And then we do have to get the sewer and water department each year to take out the meter and install that each year. Do you happen to know, Aaron, what those costs are?
I don't. But one thing I'll note, so as I understand it too, Atikokan like is flat rate billing for water, so you don't use water meters per se. That may or may not be the case for the splash pad. But a few things to keep in mind on like staff time and or third party costs. So there's again the lines need drained and flushed so that they don't freeze and burst in the winter. There's also several parts of our splash pad that are actually taken down each year and put back up each year, such as the shade structure canvas, the tipping bucket that we have as well, just so that again some of these features don't get damaged and or vandalized over the winter. Vandalism is something to keep in mind as you're picking which products to go with. I know we had to replace a few products here that got vandalized by people in the area. Again, our tipping bucket was smashed, so then we try to put back a hardier product afterwards. So despite one's best efforts, there's always things that will occur. But just kind of as you're sourcing this, maybe plan for how would I replace that if and as needed to. Anything you wanted to expand on that, Werner, on the decommissioning process?
No, but it is generally mostly our staff time. That's just as general winterization of our parks in general. So yes, it added more time to that, but didn't result in any extra staff time or any extra staff. Understand?
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Don't see any further questions. So with that, I want to thank you both for your time. I know with the time change, you're probably working through dinner, so appreciate the effort that you've made to really enlighten us on what is, as Councillor Martin said, a rather complex series that we're about to embark on here. So I thank you for your time, and I'm sure we'll be picking your brains again in the future. So thank you so much, and look forward to further discussion.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank
you.
So
long.
Moving along. Section 4, Committee of the Whole Reports, Administration and Employee Relations. Item number 1, CAO update. CAO Young.
Okay, so as per usual, every second meeting we've given you our update for the month of March. I'm assuming there will be some questions, so happy to take any at this time.
Councillor Johnson?
Thank you, Acting Mayor Knowles. Question for Tyler. Tyler, it says that the landfill, they're changing requirements. What changes are they making?
We're just looking at different trigger criterias for where additional tests are done, just based on like the evolving project requirements. So it's just been a lot of background to make sure that we're not letting them get away with too much, making sure that we have enough info to substantiate like our confidence if we ever get it looked into, things like that. It's just the project's evolving, that's all. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. The sewer truck, is it, yeah, I see the price has increased because of tariffs? Is it?
Yeah, general market conditions, right? We're purchasing in Canada, yes. As we know, everything's gone up, right? So we got quotes on them maybe a year or two ago. We're seeing a bit of an increase in that, not a lot, but enough that it's going to be slightly over budget, we think. So again, there will be a further report coming on that one here. We're just ironing out the last details.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, another question. You said that you got the materials for crack sealing. Is it for crack sealing or potholes?
For crack sealing. Crack sealing, our annual crack sealing program on the roadways and the runway. So the materials have been delivered, and they like to do that just so that their yard doesn't get full, right? So we're storing them here for them, so that when they come to town, they don't have to try and bring them up and offload them too.
My mistake. Thank you. Question for Jason. The monies from the tipping fees that you quoted this month, is that year to date at the end of February?
So, Brandy, correct me if I'm wrong, that's what we've billed. And I know Tyler is keeping track of actual volume that maybe we haven't received payment yet, but we have crested the $1 million mark.
Okay. And I would assume that the sewage one might be coming to an end here because they'll be moving past Atikokan in a bit.
There's been
none of us know that.
Yeah, there's been no time for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Excuse me, Councillor Johnson, if I could speak to that. When in my discussions with Hydro One and Ballard, is that was the first camp that was built, and that'll be the last camp to be dismantled. So they're looking at 2028 or 2029 before that camp is gone.
At Eva Lake.
Yeah, Crystal, whatever. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And I see our fire chief is not here. I see we're doing some tear downs. How many structures are going to be going down? Does it? He would only know that.
Yeah, so there's a combination of properties that we own and that need to be demolished, and I believe there's one, possibly two, that we don't own. So we're alerting the property owners for the process, but having them dismantled as well.
For this summer?
Ideally, yes.
And do we have a number how many there is?
I don't have an exact number. I want to say 3 to 4.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Nothing more on the list?
No.
All right. Excellent. Councillor Simpson?
Thank you, Councillor Knowles, or Acting Mayor Knowles. I got two questions. Didn't we get a grant quite a while ago to do a car lock system at the airport? Quite a few years ago.
So yes, we received FedNor money for our project up at the airport. At the time, I believe there was an election, and we didn't get notified until I think it was December, and the money needed to be spent by March 31st. There was no way that we could order the equipment or get the work done over the winter. We did go back to them and try and work something out, and unfortunately that money's had to be returned. So not to say that project couldn't be reapplied for again, and that would be the hope in the future.
Is that what that what is it, PP? Something about
No, that's a separate project, but Tyler can speak to that.
Oh.
Appies?
Yeah.
Yeah, we explained that in the last meeting. Remember, that's when you're landing. It's a visual.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Your grade.
Okay.
Make sure that you're coming in at the right angle.
I thought that was this thing with the.
Completely different.
Pay at the pump thing. Yeah, because I know I got a buddy who, a complains all the time that he has to wait for fuel, but anyways, and another one, for Brandy, I think it is, Finance Department, has the bin truck and the bins been sold?
The bins have been sold, neither of the trucks have been sold yet.
Either of them? Okay. Did we get a good price for the bins?
I'll bring a full report to council once everything's done.
Okay, all right, thank you, that's it.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Lyons?
Thank you, Chair Knowles. I just want to say once again that I truly appreciate these CAO updates. They're very informative and really help us communicate with the community on what's happening with the town of Atikokan. So with that, I also want to say that with a lot of these projects, I want to make sure that what is coming back to council, that we're in a position to make well-informed decisions, and this is an example of how that's happening. The Thunder Bay presentation showed a really structured approach to planning and engagement, and I think that's very helpful context for what we should be expecting to see. And just to be clear, when this comes back to council, I'd be looking for a similar report that would probably include a few specific things so that we can make that informed decision, if that's all right. Particularly with a splash pad and washroom, I'd want to see like all location options and a clear comparison of them. What exactly is being built, whether this is one washroom because we discussed two, or what those options are and the pros and cons of the different designs. How we're meeting those accessibility requirements, and what existing facilities are already nearby. Who we've been consulting with, including the library staff and board, because if we do decide to put the facilities there, it'll have direct impact on them and the Pioneer Center, and also what we heard from them. And then what the project will cost to build and operate, like was mentioned in the Thunder Bay presentation. So having that level of detail will really help council make the decisions that it needs to. But with that, particularly on consultation, it's something that I think is very important, that we're not just hearing from a few groups or relying on our typical approach of surveys. I want to understand how we're reaching the broader community and undertaking a cross-section in ways that are accessible to them. So, you know, I've kind of been harping on a little bit about meeting the needs of various groups that we don't normally hear from, and I think it's very important to do that. And through your report, I understand that there's an RFP that's being drafted, and my understanding is that an RFP should be based on a clear plan. So I want to make sure that that level of detail is brought to council before we take that step of issuing the RFP. So coming down to a couple of questions I have, can staff confirm that a report with that level of detail will be presented to council before any decisions are made? And can you walk us through what consultation would be happening, particularly if there's any plans for any, and also any discussions that have already happened, say with the library or Pioneer Center?
Sure. Thanks for the questions. So I think I'll try and go back and answer hopefully all of your questions at the same time. And there might be some confusion in regards to the project. So there has been some discussion happen. There was an ad hoc committee that was formed. There were locations that were discussed. I think the pivotal moment was when I believe the ad hoc committee did meet with the CEO for the library, and I think that's where, you know, after some discussion, it was determined that would be kind of the best location to put forward. And the reason was for a multitude of reasons, and I looked to the presentation earlier in the meeting, and there were a lot of those reasons when you think of servicing, location, and the key is that area currently now hosts outside events, some garnering as much as 200 or 300 people in those areas. So when you think about, you know, can the area handle it, parking and all, it's already happening and being quite successful, I believe. So so that was, again, with that in mind, going, okay, so as far as security, the vandalism piece, what Aaron had mentioned, and like I said, the proximity to services, it was deemed that that would be the best location. And the partnership with the library was key for that. In regards to consultation, so I'll be completely honest, we didn't, nor do we, I think, historically, go to the public with that sort of consultation. It did not happen in that sense, but consultation did happen in the sense that I have had groups that had, and if you remember, there was some money fundraised before. So that particular group had reached out, and we've had some conversations back and forth. You know, they were pushing the Centennial Park location, because I think originally there was a lot of discussion about that location, and I walked her through what I just finished explaining in regards to the connection to the library and that, which made sense to that group. So there was discussion with them. There was also discussions with the Pioneer Center, so meeting with the president and the treasurer in regards to the use of that area. They had some questions and concerns, to which I had provided them the answer to that. And then obviously with the library, right? So in the sense of consultation, that is kind of what we did. I guess my concern now, and I guess this goes out to all of council, is timelines. So we were under a mandate to get the application into NOHFC. Let's get this approved, and let's get it built this year. We engaged the services of Crescent Engineering. They are drafting the draft RFP for us. But my fear is and what I'm hearing from around the room is that if we're putting the brakes on that in regards to public consultation, locations, and all those sorts of things, my fear is can we realistically get this built this year? That is a concern of mine. In regards to the design and that, similar to Thunder Bay, we are taking a design-build approach. And again, we had previous conversations regarding funding and saying, well, how much is this going to cost? Well, it's going to cost as much as we have available funds. So, and that's that design build after the fact, right? And I think that's where we talk about having like a public consultation at that point to say, do we want a sun structure? Do we want lighting, fencing, benches, that sort of thing? So I think there will be opportunity for input in regards to the total design at that point. But we have to get to the point where we have an RFP, we have selected a proponent to build it, and then the particulars of exactly how that will look was kind of the direction that we were heading. And if we're heading in the wrong direction, then I really need to know that now. We need to kind of put the brakes on this, and then have clear direction from council as to what this process will be. My only caveat to that is that will certainly delay the process of this, and I'm not as confident that we would be able to have the structure completed this year. I don't know, right? So, but that's the background, and then I'll segue that right into the public washroom discussion. At the last meeting, it was obviously very clear that council is still very adamant about having a secondary public washroom location, which is fine. We've taken that feedback, and I've had discussions with staff regarding tweaking our phase 2 of our NOHFC application regarding the ability to have a secondary washroom location. And then again, what that will cost, it will determine how much money we have and to what extent do we want to have that built. So we are also looking at that as well. So I believe if we're successful with the full application, that I believe there will be enough money there that we can kind of make everyone happy in that regard. So that's where we're at. Just one thing popped in my head as well, when they talked about water and all that, there was a lot of those discussions, the proximity to the river. Obviously, we can't put it directly into the river. There's no area there for some sort of overland area to dechlorinate, unfortunately, but we are looking at what those options are. But it would definitely be a flow-through design, as they had said, because the recirculating turns it into a pool, and the costs are just, it's not realistic. So, but as if you remember, NWI did present their report last meeting. We have lots of ability to create more water. It's not like we're going to have concerns over the amount that we produce. And certainly if there was ever in a situation where we were on a water restriction, we would just close the park, right? So not really any issues there as well. So that's kind of both those projects at the same time, but that's where we're at. That's kind of the position we're at. We're currently reviewing the RFP. We will certainly bring forth a report and the draft RFP before we put it out. But again, I would like clear direction if we're off base, or if you want to put a pause on this and have further discussion, that's great. But we're going to get to a point where it might be too late to do that. So I'd rather have that now than moving forward.
No, I appreciate that, CAO Young. I guess I certainly don't want to hold this process up. I think that this is something that the community truly wants, and we should be advancing it as, you know, as we can. Just wanting to, you know, take a moment to pause and make sure that this is something that we're going through the correct process so that, say, 5-10 years down the road, it isn't something that, oh no, we've got all these repairs to make, it wasn't done properly, that sort of thing. So with that, just a quick follow-up on it. I'm assuming that with that RFP and any sort of designs that come out of it, there will be consideration for any sort of geotechnical work or accessibility standards. Okay.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, we're gonna make sure that the design, and not just the design of the splash pad itself, but the design of the whole area.
Yeah.
So again, with this grant, you know, we envision being able to really kind of bring together the museum, the library, and the Pioneer Center as a civic hub, and you know, depending on the level of funding that we have, is to, you know, be a bit creative and hopefully even go a bit beyond the splash pad to have that area, so when the library hosts those big events, and maybe even the Pioneer Center hosting outdoor events, will be able to capitalize on that. So it's a great opportunity, and maybe, and like you said, it can grow. You know, maybe there's other phases, right? So if we can get it done and get it built, and we can get the people there because they're already coming anyways, and if that becomes that civic hub, that I think there's a lot of opportunity to continue enhancements for that area for everyone to enjoy.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Martin?
Thank you, Acting Mayor Knowles. Sorry, I didn't, no disrespect on my last questions. I didn't acknowledge you, but anyways, okay, so regarding the splash pad, after we've witnessed or were presented with this presentation, there's a whole lot of moving parts here, and I would think that there's going to be a lot of engineering, maybe some geotechnical. I think Public Works, Tyler, probably will have to have some input in the water and the sewage water, or wherever that's going. I think that we'd be maybe fooling ourselves thinking that we can build it this year. I think there's engineering to do. I'd hate to build it real quick and then, you know, I think we should look at the big picture with some shade, picnic tables, these sort of things. And maybe this year we design it and next year we build it. We haven't had one all these years. I'd hate to rush and do one sort of half, you know what I mean? I won't say it on the air here, but let's do it right is what I'm suggesting. Maybe we don't need to rush this. Maybe we've got a year's worth of engineering here to do and design work, you know. I'm just trying to be realistic here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Councillor Shine?
Hey, respond. Oh, if I can just jump in quick, sorry, just to respond to Councillor Martin. Yeah, to your point, I think if in the presentation they said this is their fifth one, they're getting very, very good at building splash pads. And like you said, their first one was literally they went out and bought the accessories, they put a pad down and they built it, right? So, I mean, you can get to different levels. We're certainly not, you know, putting forth a project that would, you know, maybe compete with something that the city's done after building 5 of them. So, and like I said, to your point about shade and all that, I agree, and I think that can happen. And whether that happens when it's firstly constructed or if it's a moving project, you know, different phases, I think we can build upon that. But the engineering, I don't think will be quite as complex as you're anticipating, and it'll be built into the design build. So I mean, I hate to say, you know, yes, we can or not, but I think it's still realistic at this point in time. If we can get a quick answer on the funding, get the RFP out there, I don't think it's unrealistic to think that a structure can be built there. But to your point, you know, will there be additional things that could be added? Absolutely. And it could be a work in progress, right? So it'll be fine.
Thank you. Councillor Shine?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my question is this, it either goes to Jason or to Tyler. So before you put out that RFP, is Tyler aware of what infrastructure is under there and what its capabilities are? Or is that something we'll find once we start digging up? Like, are the pipes the adequate size and so it doesn't flow into the river, or has all of that been taken into consideration?
Yeah, so I mean, I've never designed a splash pad. I don't know what the flow rates are going to be offhand, but we got a 6 or 8 inch water main there. Like, there's opportunities for it. There certainly isn't a 2 inch service over there. So you will have to tear the road up to put a new service in, but in terms of the water that we can put out, we'll be able to handle that. Obviously, during wet weather events, the sewer system is probably the bigger concern, but we'll look at to see what we have in place during the design phase to mitigate those problems.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Tyler.
Yeah, those conversations are being happening right now in regards to the excess flow and that, and in regards to runoff, and and as well as in periods of low water and drought. So those are all discussions that are happening, and then we assume, or we're of the understanding that once a contractor is selected, those are the professionals, right? So when they come in, this is all they do is they build these, right? So having them work with us, we'll be able to. I'm sure that those are all the things that they take in consideration when they design these.
Great. Mayor Ferguson.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just to get off the splash pad thing, I just want to discuss the arena issue that happened during spring break, and I'll let CAO Young explain the situation, but due to some misinformation or lack of information, that it took on a life of its own, and I just like to to hopefully, for all the people that piled on social media, that maybe we can put out the story on what happened.
Sure, yeah. So there was a conscious discussion that had prior to March break regarding programming, and as council knows, these discussions happen during the Christmas break, March break, over years, and there's been years where we've put out programming, and there's been years that we haven't. So this particular year, the discussion was had regarding the arena. All of or most of the user groups that were normally using the facility had told us that they were taking a break over March break. Other than that, we would have maybe about 1 hour a day on public skate, which would determine it's pretty tough to bring staff in for just 1 hour a day. So the determination was to not have that 1 hour a day public skate. Unfortunately, we didn't do a good enough job of communicating that, and there was some discussion. So I look at the good opportunities that came from that. It looked like some local businesses did step up. They wanted to rent it. We were fortunate enough that we were able to secure staffing, and with that demonstrated demand, we were able to provide that opportunity, and we really appreciate the support from those community partnerships. So all in all, it worked good. We took a lot of stats over the week, and certainly that will help us plan for the future of offering those programs.
Yeah. Any further questions regarding the CAO report? Councillor Martin.
You, Chair Knowles. Jason, it looked like it was maybe there was some staffing issue regarding the arena closing or what have you. I'm not sure what happened there. So the people that were working in the arena doing whatever they do at the arena, what do you do with those people when the arena was closed? Do we lay them off? Did they go work somewhere else, or what happened there?
So in the wintertime, we have one full-time daytime person, arena attendant, and we have two casual. So they're not working steady days, and they work around the user groups and that. So it's not like we don't have staff sitting there while the arena is closed. And in fact, our regular arena attendant was out of town on vacation during that time. So it was just the casual arena attendants, and then what we call the rink rats as well.
So the arena wasn't closed really due to staffing shortages then, is that what I'm hearing from you?
Oh, yeah, no. The arena was not closed because of staffing. We've never said that. It was demand or lack of demand, and all the user groups had canceled their rentals through that week. So it was determined that the only thing left was the public skate for 1 hour a day. And again, in having discussions with our employees, it seemed like it didn't warrant that. So that's why the decision was made. It wasn't a financial decision. It wasn't really a staffing decision, although there was staff out of town. It was more about demand.
So you could look at maybe expanding public skate next year during spring break to a couple, 3-4 hours a day or something. Is that what you're thinking for next year, maybe?
Yeah, we're certainly going to look at this, the statistics over the week and that demand, and then have a discussion next year for sure. Yep.
Yeah,
If I
thank
could
you.
just follow up on that is, you know, the message came out, arena's closed for spring break. And yes, technically the arena was closed for spring break, but, you know, the sign could have read, due to user groups canceling their ice, the arena is closed. It wasn't staffing issues. It wasn't an idea that the town had to save money, that we don't care about kids, there was all these, you know, things running wild on this. I coached hockey, played hockey, coached hockey all my life. And I know back when my kids were young, we always polled the teams, and parents didn't want to commit to ice time during spring break. They go out of town, they're doing other things. So back 20 years ago, we were canceling ice time at spring break. So yes, there may have been opportunity for an hour or two of public skating during the day, but other than that, the user groups canceled their ice time. That's why the arena was closed. The pool, as Jason said, ran their regular programming. He looked at getting extra time for swimming, and the regular lifeguards were all booked and the student lifeguards weren't available. So we couldn't fill any more hours at the pool. Correct. So it wasn't a case of the town making moves to save a few dollars and locking the door in the kids' faces.
Thank you. Councillor Stimson? Oh,
Jimmy, let Councillor Johnson go.
Councillor Johnson.
Getting back to the splash pad, I'm totally confused here. What direction are you looking for, Jason? Do you want us to commit to it? Like,
Yeah, I appreciate the question. I think I kind of explained what we had interpreted in the process we were at. So we're still moving forward that process. What I'm saying is if that's not the process that council wants, if council is strongly of the opinion that maybe that's not the location, or this isn't the right process, or they want to see a different process happen, I just want to know that earlier. But if everyone is content with what I've said tonight and the process that we're going, then we'll move forward. We'll lock down that draft RFP. We'll bring forward to council with what the RFP is. We will give them updates on the phase 2 funding, and we will move forward as planned. I'm just saying that, I'm just some of the comments. I just want to double check, make sure that everyone is content with that process. And if they are, then yeah, we'll just keep going.
so I'm asking council now to move this thing forward. Is everybody in agreement with moving on? By a show of hands.
I've got a question first.
Can we have Councillor Stimson ask his question first? It may tie in. Thank you. Councillor Stimson?
CEO Young, the project you're talking about is just the splash pad itself, not anything else?
No, so again, like I said, as direction from the last council meeting, we are going to amend the phase 2 application to give us a little more flexibility in regards to public washrooms. And as directed, that we will be looking at constructing some sort of permanent public washroom on Main Street in conjunction with that funding.
Okay, yeah, okay, then I'll show hands then. Fine.
So, Councillor Johnson, what specifically are you looking for with a show of hands or comments?
Give Jason the okay to proceed in the path that he's going. We got majority.
I don't see anything to the contrary at this point. So,
okay, thank you.
At the same time, I don't really see much point in us having an ad hoc committee anymore. I feel like it's probably exhausted its use. We've come up with the basis of that, and this is now seems like it's a council matter for the entirety of council. So I guess there's not much point to continuing with an ad hoc committee, and to thank everyone for putting the time and effort into that. Councillor Lyons, did you have something to add to that, or?
Not in particular. It was about another item on the CAO report.
Well,
So if
by all
anybody else
means,
has anything to
if
add.
everyone's good with that, let's move on to that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to refer to your update on emergency management, if I may. And I just wanted to take a moment to talk about communication during emergencies. In particular, I've heard from quite a few residents that during the last situation, people felt scared and unsure of what to do and where to turn for information. And I understand that sometimes other agencies, and in this case the OPP, are leading it, but the town still plays a role in making sure residents are staying informed. So in the absence of Chief Warburton, I was wondering if you could walk us through what the town's role is during an emergency, and especially when another agency is leading.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing up that question. It's a great question. You're absolutely right, and I think it's very important. You always have a debrief after events, certainly, and for the MECG, which is the Municipal Emergency Control Group, that is very important, and we do work with outside agencies in the event of emergencies, but we also are there to provide services or resources to those outside agencies. We are scheduling debriefing meetings with the OPP in regards to that. And our concern with the control group is that, you know, we weren't in a position that we were getting information firsthand. So we did not want to put out information coming from us that wasn't obtained firsthand. We cannot, you know, just grab information off social media or where have you and try and put that forward, because people look to us and they want accurate information. So it probably appeared to some that the town was trying to take a hands-off approach. Absolutely was not the position. It was that the MECG was not given that information to relay. But then later on, as the event unfolded, we did improve those lines of communication, and as such, we're ready to provide the services of the Voyant alert system when the shelter in place was finally lifted. So I think that was used very well, but I think at the beginning of the event, there was certainly some communication issues that we were having ongoing conversations with those outside agencies, how that can be better for next time. So yeah, it's just important, I think, for people to understand that events like these are certainly under the mandate of the organization leading that, in this case, obviously the OPP. And we offer the services of the Emergency Control Group as a resource for them. And those conversations, those debrief meetings are yet to happen, but are planned to happen.
Okay. And if I may follow up with another one, one of the questions I'm hearing quite frequently is, what communication tools are we currently relying on, and how do we know that they're actually working in the community?
Yeah, so, and it's funny you asked that, because I asked the same about the OPP. And I felt like, you know, the OPP, like a lot of organizations, rely heavily on social media. And I understand that, you know, it's a very effective tool, but it's not the only tool. And the concern is you know, there is a large population who aren't on social media, and how do they get that information? And that's what we are presenting to the OPP, that, for example, the Voyant alert system is exactly that. It's for people who maybe aren't following social media and don't have other ways. We always encourage our residents after an event to sign up on Voyant, whether it's, you know, you can get an email or I believe a text message or a voicemail, and we still heavily push people to that system where they can get, and there's also an app as well, right? So for us, that is an effective tool. The stats, I'm not sure, honestly, but we have learned after kind of each event, we do see those numbers increase, and we do remind people to sign up. And again, social media is also an important tool as well, right? So we have good following on that. We continue to use that. Our website, maybe not quite as utilized, but we do try and get it up on the website as well. But we strongly encourage the people to sign up for that Voyant alert system, because for us, that is a way that we can get that message directly to the citizens.
So with Voyant alert, I understand, like, there's the app. I've got the app. It goes to text messages and whatnot. What about those people who don't necessarily have cellular devices?
It'll phone your home line. And I believe it'll even leave a message on your answering machine.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah. And email as well.
Okay, is there any plan for maybe a communication push after the debrief about Voyant alert?
Yeah, we try every now and then to bring it up. Usually during National Emergency Week, we try and push that as well. Unfortunately, sometimes it takes an event to have people realize that they're not signed up. The townwide boil water advisory is a great example of really kind of why this was all set up originally. And we just keep pushing people, and we hope over time that more and more people do use it. So yeah, it's kind of every now and then we do push that out, that message.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councillor Shine.
Thank you, Councillor Knowles. My question to you is probably to you, Jason. So, part of the hospital way of contacting the staff is we have a fan out. So by shortly after 6 o'clock in the morning, once everything started to happen, I received a call through the fan out. Does the Voyant Alert work the same way for just staff, so that the staff know they should not be coming to work? Or is that a component that can be added to it?
Yeah, so at this point,
I'm just thinking about staff safety.
no, I understand for sure, and we had internal mechanisms at place. Again, this was a situation we hadn't run into before. We are looking at improving those intercommunication options. Voyant possibly is. The problem is we don't provide an email to every staff member, unlike the hospital, so it's a little bit different on how we do reach out. So, you know, we're relying on text messages and phone calls and that sort of thing. So, yeah, it gave us an opportunity to look at our internal systems and see how improvements can be made, and the Voyant system is possibly one of those options. Yeah, thank you.
A follow-up question, Councillor Shine? Or?
Yes, thank you, Chair Knowles. My question is, you're going to be going into a debrief. Now, is it just going to be the emergency measures, or is the rest of council going to be brought into this, because it was such a significant event that happened to the community? Or is it just going to be something that you discuss, or is all of the council going to be addressed through it, rather than say we pass through it?
Yeah, so particular specifics about the event will not be brought forward to council. That'll be directly with the emergency measures group. Things brought back to council would just be if there's a change of process, right? So council doesn't technically have a specific involvement, although as representatives of the community, you're obviously very much involved in these events, but actual direction and working with those outside groups does belong to the MECG and those outside agencies. So we would do our best to make sure that council is made aware, or, you know, kept up to date. And again, that's through emails or the Voyant Alert system as well.
Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 2, Bike Park Project Update. CO Young.
Okay, so this recent project that kind of landed in our lap, we've been working on. We've been having some conversations. Our community services coordinator is actually attending a meeting in about 20 minutes time with that committee to have those further discussions. So as in my update stated, there is a formal bike committee has been established, and they are working at moving this forward. And we had some really good discussions regarding fundraising and opportunities like that. So at the end of the day, they are looking for a resolution from council, and I think it was council themselves at the last meeting that said they wanted to present a resolution, basically supporting the project and moving forward. I would like to see, and I guess the ask today is specifically is you know, for that resolution, certain things like location are important. There's some conversations regarding some existing reserves monies, if they can be accessed, and again, that was discussed in the memo as well. So I'd like to just kind of get some direction from council today, and then at the next council meeting on April 13th, we'll bring forth a resolution to be voted on. And with a clear indication from council, I think the committee will feel better knowing that council supports them, the project, and what they can do forward, because they've got a lot of ideas and they want to get to work on some fundraising. So I think that those are the two questions put forward today for you guys is, one, the location, and again, we've put 3 locations in the report for you. And then secondly, the reserves. Now, the important thing to note about the reserves is that money was part budgeted money and part fundraised money, and the fundraising was from a group specific to a skate park initiative, not a bike park, but a skate park. So that money is set aside specifically for a skate park. This group has requested access to those funds. And that is a decision of council, and as Brandy had stated, there has to be written confirmation and support from that original committee from the skate park that they in fact want those monies used for a bike park. So that has not happened yet, but the committee did ask the question, so we included that as well. So happy to answer any questions or get any feedbacks regarding the location and those reserves.
Councillor Shine?
Thank you, Chair Knowles. This is to Jason. Jason, I'm sorry, the group that's doing this bike park hasn't come to our meeting for the Lions Club yet. Were they the ones that recommended the location in option number 1?
Yeah, so I did have a conversation with the chair of that committee, and they were very agreeable to Centennial Park. They had apparently previous discussions regarding that location, but I don't know if they were told or that it wasn't an option. But they're very much they think that Centennial Park is a great location as well.
Okay, thank you. I would appreciate it if you could send me who the chair is, because then I can help out quite a bit through the different organizations that I belong to in regards to the fundraising. If they would reach out to me, that would be incredible. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Any further questions from council? Councillor Martin? Councillor Martin, you're on mute.
How's that? Thank you, Chair Knowles. Okay, so I've got a couple of points here I wanted to make on the bike pump track. I know the town's administration sort of got this dumped on them, and we got a lot of things going on in the town administration. So what I was going to propose was that everybody loves to hear what I propose. I know that. I was going to suggest that maybe each councillor could come up with 1 or 2 locations that they think would be great, and then we could come to the town administration along with the pump track committee and say, what do you think about these spots? So that was one thing. Keeping in mind, that a location should be, okay, before I start that, can you tell me where Centennial Park is? I'm not sure I know where that is.
So that's the playground that is across the river, across the Bailey Bridge from the White Street Ballpark. So we've got a newer play structure there. The swing set is there, and then the weather station is adjacent to that property.
Okay, thank you. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, anyway, I was going to suggest a visible spot so people, when they drive by, they can see the pump track and go, geez, I'm interested in doing that. Or you can watch the kids playing and stuff, and obviously parking. So that's all I was going to suggest, was let's keep this thing moving forward. We don't need to overthink it. There's not going to be a whole lot of engineering that needs to be done here. You can go on the internet and you can see pump track designs. We got lots of fill, a lot of fill around town. I don't think this will cost the town a lot of money. Let's not overthink it. And I think the splash pad is going to be a lot more problematic with regard to engineering than a pump track. So they're just looking for some piles of dirt. Let's keep it simple, and let's get this thing built this year. Thank you.
Councillor Martin. CAO Young?
Just to follow up to that, they corrected me when I used the term. It is not a pump track. It is a bike park. Apparently, there is a difference there. But unfortunately, and I appreciate you trying to make it as simple as possible, but unfortunately, it will need to be designed, right? It has to be designed by somebody who is more familiar with the product. The actual equipment, like you said itself, is we're not looking at a modular unit. So in essence, you're right. It's fill with some sort of clay or wrap material on top to pack it down. So I think it's not terribly expensive. I agree, but I think it has to be done properly. The other reason Centennial Park is the recommended choice is that there is room for expansion. So apparently, in some of these places they have different levels, so beginners or intermediate or advanced. So there is area there that if you were to put a small modular pump track, for example, there would be room for that expansion. But I think what the original committee had put forward to council was, as you envision, more of a natural based sort of kind of an area for the bikes. So yeah, I think that's where the committee is on to the same idea as you. They do want to have it professionally designed just so that it's safe. And I think that's kind of where they're going right now. So that location was chosen, as you said, for kind of easy access, public view, that sort of thing.
Councillor
One more, if I.
So go ahead, Councillor
sorry.
Martin, ask your question.
Okay, sorry about that. I just was waiting. Thank you very much, Jason. I know you talked about liability. That seemed to be a big stickler at the last meeting, and you know, so are we going to have to go to our insurance provider and the lawyers and say, what do we do? Do we put up a sign saying use at your own risk, or what are you anticipating there?
Yeah, so I've already reached out to them. We've had those conversations as well. Inherently, any public spaces that the town owns, there is that liability risk, of course. So there is a process in regards to listing those areas, and it would just be a matter of listing it in our annual renewal. So as long as there's not a lot of claims, there shouldn't be a huge difference. But you're right, there has to be appropriate signage as well.
Thank you. Councillor Simpson.
Thank you, Chair Knowles. The Dunbar Heights, where they talked about, I'm sure there'd be some complaints about the noise. I don't know, for some reason, people don't seem to like to hear kids having fun. But, so, I don't know, that Centennial Park, I never even thought of that, but there's a lot of space there. That seems like a good idea, a good place for it. So, I'm all in favor of that area.
Thank you. Councillor Shine?
Thank you, Chair Knowles. Jason, do we have adequate lighting there? Because you know kids are going to use it in the evening. Do we have to take any of that into consideration, or?
It's a good question. There is minimal lighting. Certainly, if the location has to be lit up, then that is definitely an added expense.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Ferguson.
We've been, I don't know, we overthink things. This group came and asked us if we would support in principle the building and help them procure some property so they could build a bike track. And we don't have to take over every idea that somebody comes up with that town. They have a committee, they're working on fundraising, they have meetings, they do things. Let them do their job, and then when they need us, they can come and ask for some help. We don't have to take over everything and be the end-all be-all. Let them do their job. They've got a plan. They came with 30 people here. They're excited about doing this. Let them do it. If they want something, they can come to us. But we don't have to spoon feed them every little thing.
Thank you. Do you want to add anything? Councillor Lyons?
Thank you. Just to follow up to Mayor Ferguson's comments, I totally agree with you that, you know, we should be allowing the committee to present their ideas in a manner that's they would like to see. However, further to, you know, being a councillor here, we also have to ensure that the town is doing our due diligence and mitigating any potential risks to the town.
Councillor Johnson?
Thank you, Acting Mayor Knowles. So can we give Jason the okay to tell the committee that Centennial Park would be our choice then?
Yeah, so I'm looking in the report, option one, right, is one, approve Centennial Park as the preferred location. Secondly, pass a resolution in essence supporting the project in principle. Authorizing administration to work with the committee on the planning, design, implementation, and that's where our community coordinator will be the town's liaison with the committee in that regard. Allowing the fundraising to proceed, and I think the resolution will be a part of that they need. And then consider that future request if they so desire to come forward with a request about the use of the reserve funds, understanding the criteria that I had put forward earlier. So that's what we're looking for today. If council is in favor of option one, then we'll bring forth a draft resolution on the April 13th meeting for approval.
Councillor Simpson, did you have a comment or support it? Yeah, if there's any Anyone who does not agree, I guess, with moving forward with option 1 to for the recommendation, then speak now or forever hold your peace. Councillor Shine, do you have something to add? You're on mute as well. Oh, you're still on mute.
It's the old outdoor pool area. That's where it's going. Just for us old people in the community.
Okay. Yeah, unless I'm seeing, yes, it looks like you're getting a pretty general consensus here to move forward with option 1.
Thank you.
So feel free to take that to the committee in 6 minutes. Thank you. I appreciate that. So there will be a supporting resolution then brought to the April 13th meeting.
Correct. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Moving along. Item number 3, time change, report to council. Clerk Bates.
Thank you, Chair Knowles. My department was tasked with figuring out some information for time change in Atikokan. Keisha had contacted the MMMH, and as the report says that for a municipality to change time, it would likely require a formal resolution from council followed by advocacy with the provincial government. This could include submitting a letter through NOMA, requesting a conference delegation, obtaining supporting resolutions from other municipal councils, or corresponding directly with the Legislative Assembly of Ontario. They also noted that there is an amendment to the Time Act that has now been passed but has not been proclaimed. The amendment would make daylight savings time permanent, effectively eliminating the biannual clock changes. However, it requires parallel legislation in Quebec and New York before it can be implemented. We also did a deep dive, and thank you to the museum with all their newspaper articles. We did find the date was November 18th, 1954, which the council at that time decided to string along with daylight time instead of making the usual switch to standard time at this period of the year. So I just had some attachments from over the many years that council has talked about this, and if you want us to continue to keep looking, but I just think that at this time I don't think we should, but that's up to council. So if anyone has any comments.
Mayor Ferguson.
I'd just like to put forward that we just drop this idea and let administration do more pressing things than chasing our tails on this. Are we going to be a different time than Sapawi half the year? We're going to be a different time than Perch Lake? Like, there's more to it. We're Atikokan. We don't dictate what happens outside our municipalities. So it's a nice thing to throw out there, and it's nice to get some publicity and talk about things, but let's just move on to some more pressing issues. We've been doing this for an hour and a half already, and we're not even halfway through our agenda. We just go around and around on the same thing over and over again.
Thank you, Mayor Ferguson. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Chair Knowles. So thank you, Clerk Bates, for looking into this. I appreciate, and what you and administration did. I don't want to flog a dead horse here. So let me understand something. If we get rid of daylight savings time, are we going to go to Thunder Bay time year round then? Because that's what was agreed upon in 1954. What's going to happen if we drop daylight savings? What are we doing?
Technically, we would follow the rules of the time zone, and we are located in the central time zone legally.
But I thought previously we agreed that we would follow Thunder Bay up until they went to daylight savings time.
Correct. Many years ago, legislation, it would be an interesting question that would have to be asked at that time if it ever came to that time.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Acting Mayor Knowles. I am in complete agreement with our mayor.
Thank you.
Oh my.
Councillor Simpson.
Oh my, we're beating a dead horse. I don't know, I've never missed an appointment in Thunder Bay, so.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate the vigorous discussion and staff taking the time to look into this. We know that BC has adopted the same thing as Ontario's amended Time Act, and Alberta has proposed to follow suit. So, looking forward to seeing where that's going. But there does seem to be some changes happening all across the country. So, with that, we will move on to item number 4: use of corporate resources for election purposes. Report to council. Clerk Bates.
Thank you, Chair Knowles. The following is just a policy that we've had to have. So it's before May 1st in the year of election, municipalities and local boards shall establish rules and procedures with respect to the use of municipal or board resources, as the case may be during the election campaign period. So we don't need to change the policy. It's good from 2022. This is just for council's information. If they have any questions, please ask.
Thank you. So that's for information purposes. And then moving on to item number 5, Code of Conduct and Integrity Commissioner Protocol during an election year. Report to council.
Thank you. This is just another report for council for information purposes. It's just describes what your code of conduct for council and local boards does during election period, and the integrity commissioner to what their role is during election period. So if anybody has any questions, please ask.
Any questions from council? Seeing none, thank you very much, Clerk Bates. Please, everyone, read those as it is an election year. Moving on, item B, number 1, 2025 Remuneration and Expenses Report to Council. Randy, that would be you.
So this is just our annual report of remuneration and per diems and travel expenses, any expenses really, paid directly to council or police service board.
Great. Any questions, comments? Perfect. Moving on, item number 7, in camera. I have a resolution that council proceed in camera in order to address a matter pertaining to personnel matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. We need a motion and a second on that. Oh, I can't read. Oh, that's Brian. Okay. Okay, thank you. Moved by Councillor Simpson, seconded by Councillor Johnson. All in favor? That's carried. And we will resume with the meeting of council following the resumption of in camera. Thank you.